Hey, Ralph, I want to ask you something.
Mm.
Um, in the Torah, it talks about Gaza being a blessed land, like, and then Gaza's brought up a lot. Like, in your opinion, what's the point? Like, how is it connected to
Long,
Israel?
Well,
Well,
I think Gaza is the place where Shimshon was at, right?
mm-hmm,
I mean, he knocked down the buildings in the Philistines. I don't know. There's been a lot of conflict over in that region throughout history.
mm-hmm.
A lot of negativity been over there. Shalom, shalom.
Shalom.
Shalom, shalom, broken toe, how you doing?
Uh,
Everyone's good.
Well,
Good. Okay, so just to go into it, we're going to go into Rav Ashlag. So the thing is now on this aspect, because right now the whole idea is like developing to be able to have the language in the system to to be able to learn the safer, right? And the thing is, the Torah is like when we look at the precision and the details that come off the Zohar, it kind of should give us an insight to how big the Torah is and all the different levels that the Torah is connecting us to, and all the different levels of elevation that are connected. Because the Zohar is only focusing on certain parts, and it's very clear about that. But the Torah brings in everything, right? It brings in all the levels, even the levels that we're not even supposed to travel to. It's still in the Torah. You know what I mean? We just don't. We're not trying to go into those places because it's forbidden. Mentally to go into really expansionary places about God or whatnot. I mean, you could ponder it all you want, but your brain wasn't designed for that, right? So when you try to do that and try to encompass the Creator in thought, you know, you you're trying to do something that doesn't exist. It's like trying to get like mayonnaise out of a slot machine. You know what I mean? Like it just wasn't created for that. Okay. All right. So let's go into so Rob Auslag is now he's going to deal with this idea of perception, right? And this is probably up until this moment so far in the Sefer, this is probably one of the biggest moments because when we hear his critique and his challenges on perception and what perception is and how we perceive reality, he's going to apply it to what's inside the Zohar. But ultimately, this is a critique on reality in general, right? Okay, hold on. Okay. Okay, so here we are. Hold on, let's get this going. So we're in the perception. Perception of reality. Who decides? Was it the public school or private school that I went to growing up? Who's deciding? Okay. All right. So he says there's four modes of perception. If you remember, oh, it's chapter 11, chapter 12. Okay. So there's four modes of perception and two modes addressed in the Zohar, right? So we remember earlier he said there's four modes of perception. There's substance. There's a form of substance and in abstract form, and then also essence, right? So he's saying so. It seems like the first two, substance in its form, are what the Zohar touches on, but it does not touch on these other two aspects, which are the abstract form and essence. Okay. So it says Veishta leha shakila kon elu dalet Ofini Abrahamusukilot. Okay, so it says like this. At this point in the discussion, it is necessary to understand the four modes of perceiving entities, which were mentioned earlier in connection to the first principle, which are substance, form, form enclosed in substance, abstract form, and essence. I shall first explain I first explain them by means of tangible illustration from this world. So he's saying he's going to use illustration from this world to explain something that doesn't have physicality. And that's a key thing to understand about the Kabbalah in general, is that many times when God wants us to understand something that is abstract, he will use physical form to express that, right? And the other nations who don't know how to learn our Torah have took these ideas and made them to ways to justify idolatry. You know, this thing means this, and the God is physical. These things. No, these are all explanations that allow us to understand things that don't have physical form. Okay. He says, for example, when you say someone is strong, truthful, or deceitful, and the like, you have the following aspects before you: his substance in his body, his form enclosed in the substance. That is, whether he is strong, truthful, or deceitful. See, the abstract form is one can remove the form of a strong, truthful, or deceitful person from the substance of the man, and perceive these three forms in and of themselves, enclosed in any substance or body, which means perceiving the attributes of strength, truthfulness, and deceitfulness, and detecting merits or shortcomings in them when they are just diluted is diluted of all substance, the essence of a person. So let's try to understand what he's saying here. There's a lot of complicated different things. Okay. So you see someone. Okay, so he says, so there's three parts, right? Substance. Now he said abstract. Okay, so he says substance and in form enclosed in substance. Okay, and then you have abstract form and essence. Okay, so he says when you say someone is strong, faithful, so strong, truthful, or deceitful, you have the following aspects before you. You have his substance, which is the person itself, right? And his form, his form that's in front of you, right? So you see XYZ person, a person comes in and say you work at a bank and you give loans, right? So this person comes in and your impression of this person is that this person is a truthful person, right? So he's saying what you're seeing in front of you at that point is the substance, which is a person, and his form of substance, which is this character or this energy that you're connecting to from this person, right? He said the abstract form, okay, so let's understand this abstract form. Abstract form is that one can remove the form of strong, truthfulness, or deceitfulness from a person's, from the deceitful person from the substance of the man, and perceive these three forms in themselves, enclosed in any substance or body by means of perceiving the attributes of strength, deceitfulness, or detecting merits. So we're going to go forward to understand what he's saying. But basically, where we're at right now, because he's building the idea, right? You don't want to jump ahead. So he's saying like this. He says, when you're looking at a person, right? When you're looking at a person comes up to you, the thing that you're connecting to is the substance in the form of substance. So you can say the person themselves, the entity in front of you, and whatever energy you feel from them, right? And so he's saying this abstract form is that one can remove the form of these things from the person, from the substance. So to see what he's saying with it, just keep going. Just keep going. He says utada she'ifun had shehu me'ot. He says me'ot ha'ish. So he says like this: understanding that we have no grasp at all of the fourth mode, okay, which is the essence of a person himself. Without the substance, without the substance. Okay, so he's saying he's coming out making a statement. He said the fourth level, we have no ability to grasp the essence of a person. Okay, without the substance. So he says the substance allows us to connect to the essence. He said the five senses, right? So anybody who's read my book, Mind of the Black Jew, We'll know in the second chapter, I talk about this idea of 1% reality and 99% reality. This is where it comes from right here. He says, for the five senses and our imagination will suggest to us only manifestations of the essence, but nothing of the essence itself. Okay, so he says, we are not dealing with anything of essence in this reality of our five senses, right? The 1% reality. We're not dealing with any substance, but rather the expression of essence, right? I mean, you're not dealing with any essence, right? So when you see the tree, you're not dealing with the essence of the tree. You're dealing with the manifestation of the essence of the tree, right? And so he says, thus, for example, the sense of sight merely presents to us with traces of visible essence, which are visible because of light. So, like we said, the human eye doesn't see reality, it sees less than 1%, and it sees light particles. And those light particles go in the back of the brain and you form images. He said, similarly, the sense of hearing is merely the ability to perceive sound from the air waves, from the air sound waves, striking in entity. He says, the air that is pushed away by its force strikes our eardrum. And thus we hear that there is some entity in our vicinity. Okay. So he's saying, so even an idea of sound, right? It says is our eardrum, right, is connecting to the sound, the airwaves in this thing. And he says the air that is pushed away by its force strikes our eardrum. And thus we hear that there is some entity in our vicinity. He said the smell, he's a sense of smell, is only the air, adornment, odorant. He says molecules. He says that merges from an entity, which strikes our olfactory receptors, and so then we can smell. Likewise, taste is nothing more than the result of the contact with some entity with our taste buds. Consequently, all of these four senses present to us only with the manifestation of the activities that are caused by some entity, but nothing of the entity itself. So this is a very important point, right? It's saying that when we have four modes of perception, right? So hearing and seeing and tasting and smelling and seeing, all these things are we only are connecting to glimpses. I say 1%, right? We only connect to glimpses, and we connect to those glimpses, and those sensories allow our imagination to create a reality that we're experiencing, right? So all the things that we're seeing is all perception. That's why two people can be in the same room and have two completely different experiences. So let's keep going. Afilo chos hamishov hamishosh. He says shehu ha chazach. So he says even the sense of touch, which is the most powerful of senses, as it distinguishes between hot and cold, and the source of liquid. All of these merely manifestation of activities taking place within the essence of the entity. They are only merely they are merely incidents of the essence of the entity. For the hot can be chilled and the cold can be heated. The solid can be transformed into liquid through chemicals processes, and the liquid into air, more vapors. It is as at which point it at which point it entirely escapes any discernment of our five senses, right? He says, yet the essence is still within. He says, since air can be turned into liquid and once again the liquid turned into solid, he says, how should now it should now be clear to you that your own eyes and five senses cannot reveal to us any essence whatsoever, but only incidents and manifestation of activities taking place within the essence of the entity. Uno da shekolma she'enu ma'alenu he says mokshav. Oh, let's see it this way. Bemochash. Okay, bemochash. All right, anyway, so it says like this. He says, and it is also well known that anything that cannot grasp with our five senses is very important. It's well known that anything that we cannot grasp with our five senses, we cannot imagine either, and something that we can't imagine would never appear in our thoughts, and we have no way of perceiving it. All right, so he's saying like this. He's saying that this idea that everything that we experience is an expression of some essence. The essence we cannot connect to. We can't connect to the essence, but we can connect to the manifestation. But most of the manifestation that we're connecting to is stimulated by our ability to experience these things. And then from there, our imagination creates stories. It creates mechanisms, right? It creates, pathways of understanding. Okay. So it says, okay. So he says like this. He says, "Hare she'in leha makshava tasifem lecholam behemot." Okay. So he sorry, behemihut. So he says, thus the human thought has no way of perceiving its essence. Okay? The human thought has no way of perceiving its essence. Moreover, we do not even know, he says the human thought has no way of perceiving in essence. In essence. Moreover, we do not even know our own essence. I feel and know that I take up space in the world. I know I'm solid, warm, and that I think. In other such manifestations of operations of my essence. But if you ask me what my own essence is, from which of these manifestations stem, I would not know how to reply. I would not know what reply to give to you. You can thus see that the providence has prevented us from perceiving any essence. We perceive only the manifestation and essence of activities that arise from the essence. Okay, so I think that's clear, right? He's saying even ourselves, right? Here's the proof. We don't know what our own essence is. We know that we could think, we know we have body, all this, but what it emanates from, you can say, okay, the soul, but what does it mean, right? He says, Efun shehu ha chomer. So he says like this. He says we do have a full grasp. He says we do have a full grasp on the first mode, which is substance, i.e., the manifestation of activities that arise from every essence. That is the substance. The substance is what manifests from the essence, right? Everything that we experience. He says these manifestations to us, the essence that lies within the substance in a comprehensive manner. He says these manifest to us the essence that lie within the substance in a comprehensive manner, such that we do not suffer at all from the lack of perception of the essence itself. So just the fact that we don't connect to this essence, that the physical experience is so powerful, this 1% is so powerful that it says that these manifestations, these manifestations to us, these manifest to us the essence that lies within the substance in a comprehensive manner, such that we do not suffer at all from the lack of perception of the essence itself. We do not miss it at all, just as we do not miss six fingers on our hand. The perception of the substance, that is the manifestation of activities of the essence, is completely sufficient for all of our needs in perception, both for the perception of our own being and for the perception of all existing outside of us. So he's saying very clear. He's saying like, so this idea of understanding this point of a substance. So now we have a clear definition of what substance is. Substance is the manifestation of the essence. The essence is something we cannot perceive with our five senses. Is beyond our logic. In a way, we don't understand the essence of ourselves, and obviously, for sure, it comes from the understanding we can't understand the essence of the Creator, which is the essence of everything itself, right? So it makes sense that we can understand the essence, because the essence of everything is the Creator, right? So it's saying from that perspective that we can't understand the essence, but we can understand the expressions, the activities, the manifestation of it. He's saying that God made it in such a way that we're not tortured by not knowing the essence, but rather we could live in a reality where we completely forget about the essence, right? That's the challenge, right? The challenge is to get past a state of consciousness where we are thinking about the essence. We want to know the essence. We want to be one with the essence, right? Instead of saying like, no, I'm okay by just what's around me. So that's what he's saying. So says a phone has says so Sora. So he says ha melo shevet veshet. So he says the second mode, okay, which is form enclosed in substance. So let's understand this. Is also perceived clearly and comprehensively. For we perceive it through the actual practical experiences as we find them in conduct in every substance. Okay, let's see what that is. It is through this mode that all of our higher perceptions upon which we can rely on unconditionally come to us. Okay, so let's understand what this means. Okay, the second mode, the substance that's enclosed. So just like substance that's not enclosed, Hashem made it that we could understand it clearly and comprehensively. For we perceive it through actual, practical experiences. Let's keep going. And he says, and as we find them in conduct of every in conduct of every substance. It is through this mode that our higher perceptions among us we can rely on unconditionally. Okay, so we'll see where it takes us from this time. He says, "Efun hagimel shehu sora me mishpat mishpat." So he says like this. Is it ufish tatet umishpit tatet? Some of these words these are like kind of like different words. Anyways. So I just want to see his word because you always got when you see new words, you gotta like pay attention to them and see. You just make. He says umisht umifisht tet. Okay, umifisht tet. Okay, so he says de chayinu. So he says like this. The third mode is abstract form. That is, after the form has once been revealed to us, while enclosed in some substance. So when the way he's saying this enclosed in the substance thing is saying that, okay, well, like say for example, the like say the human body is obviously an expression of some inner essence, right? So this inner body has, I guess, every body has a certain uniqueness to it, right? And so I'm guessing this is what he's saying is a substance enclosed in the substance, right? It's kind of like the personality, it's the experience, it's how it expresses itself, right? But even if even that what would be considered not the essence of it, but an aspect of it is a regular substance in the form. So that's where I'm at right now, just trying to find the right words. But as we go, he provides us the words as he's done so far. Rav Ashlag. So he says this is okay. So this is after the form, once he has been revealed to us while enclosed in some substance. Our imagination has the power to extract it entirely from the substance. Okay, so this is the third mode. That is, after the form has once been revealed to us while enclosed in some substance. Our imagination has the power to abstract it entirely from that substance and perceive it divested of any substance. This is like the virtues of good attributes that are described in the works of ethics, in which we speak about attributes of truth and falsehood and strength and the like, abstract of many substances. We ascribe merits or shortcomings to them when they are abstract. All right, before I comment, I just want to read this third part and then we'll go back to it. It's just is because I know I just wanted to see what he says. It says ute dat she'efum. Okay, so he says like this. Understand that the third mode is unacceptable to careful thinkers. as it is impossible for it to them to be 100% reliable. For since the perceptions formed are ascertained by abstraction from the substance, one might err regarding them. For example, someone with idealistic moral values, by which means is irreligious individual on account of his intensive focus on the qualities of truth in an abstract form. Even when he even when he could save people from death by telling them a lie, he would decide there were there were whole worlds to perish, and he still did not let a deliberate lie escape his mouth. This is not the Torah stance, as nothing you perceive, as nothing takes precedence over saving life. Okay, so this understand. Okay, so let's try to understand this. Okay, so substance is the person itself. Okay, the form of substance is the quality of the personality, is expression of the personality, right? And what he's saying here, this third level, right, which is this aspect of abstract, right? So this aspect of abstract is something that we project, right? It's our thing. We're projecting it onto something. Our imagination is saying, hey, this is what it means. It's like a person sees a mirage, right? So what just happened there, right? There's a substance, right, which is the desert, and there's a form, and it, or you could say the substance is rocks or whatever, and you could say it's the desert. Now, this abstract thing is something that we apply to that, right? It's like you see people have superhuman strength. They go out and they save their child, or they save people in battle, or they're able to plant a whole vineyard, whatever. This is what he's saying is this aspect of this third mode of abstract form. The abstract form is after the form has once been revealed to us, right? While enclosed in a substance. Our imagination has the power to abstract it entirely from the substance and perceive it divested from that. How do guys end up with girls that are not good? How do girls end up with guys that are not good? It's from this principle, right? There's a substance, there's a form, and then there's this third aspect of abstract form, which we project on it. So I guess what he's trying to get us to is that we need to get past this phase, right? We need to get past this phase, this idea of abstract form, right? And being able to control it. And so he says at this level that people who are smart, they don't trust this, right? Right? They don't trust this, right? And so that's why he's saying over here, understand that this third mode is unacceptable for careful thinkers, as it is impossible for it to be 100% reliable. This is the abstract form. That's what we project. That's what we project, right? It's like the guy who goes and buys a used car, right? And the used car, is a lemon, right? So you could say that he only stayed at the level of abstract form, that what he projected onto this car, not the substance or the form of substance, right? He projected, right? And he says, for the sense of perception form are uncertain and by abstraction, and from a substance, one might err regarding them. For example, someone has an idealistic view. Okay, so we read that. Okay, so I think we're in that pitch. So substance is the physical expression. The form of substance is this personality, how like the configuration, the uniqueness, you could say, and the abstract form is the aspect that we project on it, right? Okay. So he says, "Vikin im haya mashkil hasorot emet." So he says, in fact, we perceive the form of truth and falsehood, which is enclosed in the substance. In fact, we have perceived the form of truth and falsehood that is enclosed in the substance. We would have comprehended them only with respect to their benefit or harm to the specific substance. In other words, after many trials the world had endured with these attributes of truth and falsehood, people observed people observed in tremendous ruins and harms that deceitful people have caused with their lies, and the great benefit and truthful people have brought about by confining themselves to speaking only true words. They have arrived at the conclusion that no attribute is more important than truth. Nothing is more despicable than the attribute of falsehood. Had the idealistic understood that, he would have certainly agreed to stands of the Torah, which would have realized that the falsehood which saves even one person of death is incredibly more important than other great and praiseworthy attributes of truth. And praiseworthy attributes of truth may be. So he's saying, yeah. So he's saying like this. He's saying that. So when you get into this frame of abstract form, right? Abstract form has to do with how you perceive things. So he says, like, so say take a person who believes totally in truth and falsehood and all these types of things, and he comes to this conclusion that this is what the world is, right? So he is now projecting on form and substance, or substance and form of substance, what is actually taking place and what is actually is there. So this person could say, even if there was if I told a lie that would save, say, 1,000 lives, I believe, and I have this abstract form of what reality is in my head that I project on this thing. It says, no, I will be doing a disservice to the world by telling these people something that would save their lives. I must tell the truth. So he says, thus there is certainly there is no certainty at all the regards of those perceptions of the third level of abstract, and even less when it comes to the abstract form that has not yet been enclosed in any substance, which perceptions are simply a waste of time. Let's try to understand that. Okay, there is no certainty with regards to those perceptions of the third. There's no certainty, exactly, abstract form. And even less when it comes to abstract forms that have not yet enclosed itself. Okay, so that's an interesting part. So he's saying that you have substance and you have the form of substance, right? And he's saying that even the form of substance, there's an aspect of abstract form. And then there's abstract form in its entirety, right? So he's saying even the thing. So he's saying basically our perception is abstract form, and it may or not be connected to the essence. And even if we think I mean, not the essence, even if it may not be connected to the substance, right? And even if it is somewhat connected and we have a perception, it still may not be that. And that's why he's saying you need the Torah, right? Because the guy who believes in what he projects on what reality is, okay, 1,000 people just died and you could have saved them. But you have this abstract form of understanding reality. And so you're projecting that and that. Or it's like, like say, like you have like sometimes you have these professional athletes, right? And a lot of their work ethic had a lot to do with the different things that they had to deal with. Um, um, okay, I think we should stop it because it's going to go into another thing. But anyway, so you see some of these athletes and these people, and in essence, they have like this voice in their head, and his voice makes them keep going and keep running and working out and this, and they're not good enough and all these type of things. That is that abstract form, right? They projected that reality on substance and its form of substance, right? And so it's important to connect in that way, because they're saying that the Torah, or the Zohar itself, is only dealing with form and substance. And I mean, it's dealing with substance and form of substance. It's not dealing with abstract form and essence, right? And so it's important to understand that, because we're dealing with the aspect of, it's not the essence, it's the manifestation of the essence. And it's how that manifestation of the essence, expresses itself in reality. Those are the two ideas that we're dealing with in the text. Any points, any ideas, reflections?
Um, just briefly, it's I feel like it's given us It's kind of talking about Absolute, Bariya, Yazira, and Sia, the four worlds. It's kind of talking of Nefesh, Ruach, and Neshama. And my thoughts aren't necessarily cohesive yet, just kind of what I'm thinking about. But just how we can't perceive Absolute, we can't perceive emanation. And as Hashem's, providence comes down, we start to get bits and pieces of it through Bariya, through Yazira, through Asaya. And it's just, it's making me think about Shabbat. Like, I mean, on a simple level, I'm taking the four worlds and the three levels of the soul. And I'm thinking about the seven, I'm thinking about Shabbat. But like Shabbat is the essence of our entire existence in a sense. Like it precedes everything. It's that space, it's a place where time and space become one.
Mm.
If that makes sense at all. But I don't know, it's something very interesting to think about, like just what we perceive and what we think we don't perceive, the abstract form and the non-abstract. I don't know. I'm about to go over this a few times. It's pretty beautiful though, in a way. Mm.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is a little bit. It gets a little bit intricate, as you know, and we went through it in the introduction, and we're going to read a little bit about Shem Tov from this week's Torah portion. That actually, ironically, he's quoting the Zohar, right? So we'll be able to we'll be able to deal with that right now. But the point is saying that um, this week was a big week for all of us. We finished the introduction of, of Rav Ashlock's introduction to Kabbalah and the Zohar, which is big, for a lot of reasons, we talked about during those days. But it's a big deal, and it's a huge accomplishment, a massive, massive accomplishment, and it's something that you have with you for the rest of your life. And so now we're building into the next phases of the preface to the Zohar, which is giving us the more in-depth tools to be able to go there. Okay, so let's do a little Baal Shem Tov. Okay, so it says Ve'ela Mishpatim HaMishpatim Asher Tasima Lifinehem. Okay, so he says these are the ordinances that are before you, set before them. He said these are ordinances that you shall set before them. Okay, so this is Exodus 21:1, right? He says on this verse, the Zohar says that there are cycles of reincarnation. This is a surprising comment, seeing that the subsequent verse speaks about monetary loss. However, I have heard the following explanation. One person accuses another in court that he owes him money. Though the defendant knows he is innocent, the Torah nevertheless obligates him to pay. He shouldn't be plagued by this question. Isn't a Torah of truth who whose paths are pleasant? So he's questioning, like, how could this happen? He's saying, like, okay, a person goes to court with somebody, they have a dilemma, and somehow the court rules in this person's favor, right? He says because this is the Torah is true of is the truth of the because this is the truth of the Torah, and it is pleasantness. Undoubtedly, he owed this money to the other person in a previous lifetime. So they're saying like a lot of these rules that they're talking about, right? These ordinances and these things have to do with people being in predicaments. If this person's in this predicament, you do this. If this person's in that predicament, you do this. If this you owe this money, you become all these different things, right? And this idea of understanding that the Torah in Mishpatim is talking about situations. And so he's saying that if someone goes to court and the court rules against them, and it's obvious that he's not guilty. He says a person should understand that, and he says undoubtedly he owed this money to the person in a previous lifetime, and the Torah is now making him pay in order to free him from this debt. As the person should took as for the person who took as for the person who took the money deceitfully, he will have to give his own accounting in the future. This is only one example of many possible cases. This is what the Zohar alludes to in the reading of the verse. There are ordinances, which for a while the law for he says for a while for a while the for a while the law may at times seem unjust. Really, these are cycles of reincarnation. The character of the creator of the world and of all the souls knows what occurred between individuals in previous lifetimes and directed his world accordingly to the Torah with love and compassion, with righteous and truth, justice. The implications of this are very broad. So we just this is a small word on this week's parsha, is this idea that we very much believe in reincarnation. We believe that things are not by accident. We don't meet people by accident. We're not in situations by accident. We believe in this idea of Mechaye Hamatim, this idea of resurrection of the dead at the end, which is that we believe that people are coming into this world. So the idea of souls coming in out of this world is one thing. And even tonight, as Shabbat comes in, you have to keep in mind that there's so many souls that are coming into the world to be elevated on Shabbat, right? So this whole dynamic of souls in and souls out, is a really big thing, right? Another point I wanted to mention for this week's Torah portion is this idea of the slave, right? The idea of the person who is a slave but doesn't want to leave his slavery, right? And so they pierce his ear and they do it by the doorpost. And so that idea of the doorpost really reminded me of the idea of another doorpost that's coming up, which is on Pesach, right? And so the doorpost by the slave, the Mishpatim, is a doorpost that says, "Hey, God wants me to be free. God wants me to be free, and I don't want to be free. I want to stay a slave, right? I want to stay a slave." And so they said that person's ears pierced, and they do it by the doorpost, right? They do it through the doorpost type of thing, right? So what's the point? But by Egypt, the doorpost and us putting the blood on the doorpost was a symbol of us wanting to be free, right? So what can we understand by that, right? That we have those two different expressions of a doorpost as it relates to a Jew that one doesn't want to be free and another one wants to be free, right? And so when we look at that, maybe we could go back and we could look at it in a different way and say, hey, on this level, when we're learning in Mishpatim, we're learning about a person who obviously feels that he needs to pay an even longer debt, right? Even a longer debt and even a longer servitude. So maybe we could learn it not as a person who's a slave who doesn't want to be free, but rather a person who doesn't want to be free from his master and his master being God, right? And so from there, you have two experiences that are identical, right? You have the doorpost by the slave who doesn't want to be free. But here we say, no, he's saying he wants to be free, but he wants to be free. He wants to be a slave to God. And then the other one is also wanting to be a slave to God. Anyway, so it's just this idea of understanding that the slavery, like that our ancestors went through, was a precursor to being a slave to God, right? And you have to go through that process of slavery to be able, and that's why Am Israel, we're learning about their slavery, and we learned about their exodus to receive the Torah. But it was only through that servitude and learning what it is to be a slave that a person can be a proper slave, which is to the Creator. Any thoughts, any ideas?
Yeah, Baruch Hashem, this, this section here, it reminds me of the previous study that we just had just now, because it's about, it just makes me think about perception and how we perceive things. Because as you were talking about the two doorposts, a question rose up in my mind and said, well, wait a minute, hold up, wait a minute. Maybe this isn't about the slave at all. Maybe it's not about the doorpost at all. But there's someone that's unseen. Where's the master at? What type of master are we talking about? Do we want to be a master to the world? I mean, do we want to be a slave to the world? Or do we want to be a slave to God? And it's really about that. It's really about your perception. Because, anytime we hear the word slave, of course, there's a drawback. We like, whoa, we don't even like that word. But the reality is that you're gonna serve someone. You're gonna be a servant somewhere, somehow. Even the atheist is serving himself. He's serving, so it's about what, like, how you're perceiving your servitude. Because I can tell you, um, I guarantee you that if we look at Eleazar, Abraham's servant, and then you look at a slave here in the United States, you're gonna have two different concepts, two total different concepts. Um, and you even say Eleazar was probably more wealthy than most rich people during that time frame. You see, so it's just about perception.
Mhm. Any final thoughts? The horn just went for me, so I gotta get ready to go to Shabbos in like 40 minutes. Go ahead.
I'll be super quick, Baruch Hashem. So just going on that point, you know, being a slave, want to go free. Maybe it's being, going free from Yesahara. That's why, when you come to conversion to Judaism, they tell you no, you don't want to do this. You don't want to do this. Why you want to do this? Go and be, go live. You want to take on the 613 mitzvahs? You gotta eat kosher. You gotta wear your zizit. You gotta, you gotta pray Amidah 3 times a day. You're being a slave. Is this what you really want? So I was thinking about that, and then it kind of brings out a story. We're talking about, perception. Baruch Hashem, I can say it correctly with Moshe Rabbeinu. He asked Hashem, like, show me your ways, like, show me the. Sinner says, show me your ways, show me how you govern the world. And a man comes, and Moshe Rabbeinu is on the mountaintop of Hashem, and he's looking down. And he sees this man. He comes, he drops his wallet, he leaves. Second guy comes, picks up the wallet. He leaves. First guy comes back looking for his wallet, and while he comes, another guy comes. So the first guy and the fourth guy, they meet each other. First guy's like, hey, give me my wallet back. Fourth guy's like, I don't know what you're talking about. What do you mean? First guy gets upset, kills him. Moshe's like, what's going on? Like, this isn't what's happening. And Hashem's explaining to him, the first guy stole the wallet from the second guy. So the second guy really got his wallet back. He gets his, what you return, gets back, he leaves. First guy comes back, meets the fourth guy. He's like, why did he kill him? Well, the fourth guy actually killed the first guy's father. So he was avenging his father's death. So, oh, Baruch Hashem, it all makes sense. The perception, though, is like, what's going on? This doesn't work. How is this happening? Da da da. But Hashem's like, you don't know the inner workings of my providence and how I put everything together. So, Baruch Hashem, our perception is very important. And connecting to the Torah, as you're saying, the Zohar gives you certain aspects of it, but the Torah makes it cohesive. The Torah brings it all together. It's just the Teferet. It brings together Chesed and Gevurah, allows us to be in harmony. So, Baruch Hashem.
Baruch. So let's end it here. We're back at it, B'vat Hashem, on Sunday. We got continue to climb up this mountain, to climb up this ladder, getting to the treasures that are within ourselves. So yeah, let's just continue on. Have a very peaceful Shabbat. Spend time, say kind words, many kind words as we can, to as many people as we can, and just enjoy. Enjoy that we made it another week and we accomplished so much in our learning. And next week, God willing, we accomplish even more. We grow even more, and by the time we're by Pesach, we won't even recognize ourselves, right? And we'll go into Pesach with a very, very pure vessel and be able to receive that light.